Hi everyone, Kate here with the Luxicon, and today I'm going to talk to you about what it means to bake your makeup. You're probably already familiar with techniques like contouring and strobing by now, but I've been seeing a lot of people talking about baking your makeup, and I've been seeing the headlines on Pinterest and things like that, and I just never knew what it was. I was wondering, is this where you heat your makeup, or is there actually like microwaving, or I don't know, who knows. So I started looking it up because I've been seeing it's been trending, and it's a trend that has been sustained over the last couple of months, so it's something I should probably learn about and bring to you. So first of all, what I have on my face right now is not much besides, eye makeup and lipstick. I did one layer of foundation. That is it, this Hourglass foundation, and I just did it all over, one color, no bronzer, no contouring, nothing like that right now, and especially nothing under my eyes really. So that's where we're going to start how to bake your makeup. So first step, I'm going to use this IT Cosmetics eye cream, and eye cream is important, just a little bit going on underneath. This step is important because it's going to plump up your under eye and make that skin extra hydrated. Gonna use another finger for this one. So when it's extra hydrated, that's going to help with the creasing because we don't want it to crease under the eyes. So before we get going with more steps, I just want to point out that this is a makeup technique that you want to use when you are doing a full look. But I don't wear this much makeup every single day. So you can tone it down, but today I'm showing you all of the steps to doing a full look. So I did the IT Cosmetics Under Eye Bye Bye Cream, or Bye Bye Under Eye Cream, and that feels like it's relatively set in. So now I'm gonna use their under eye concealer, and I'm using it because it says full coverage and waterproof, anti-aging, all that good stuff. So I'm going to try this one out for today because I don't usually use a really thick under eye concealer, but when you're doing this baked makeup, you should. And it's going to seem like a lot of concealer, but that's okay. So just going to apply it. Ooh, yeah, this stuff is like gummy. If you can see it. That's going to be really good for baked makeup. And I'm blending it more underneath my eye, like further down in my face, than right into the creases, but I'll show you how I like to get that. I gently start working up once I have most of the product worked out because I don't need a ton under my eye like that. And when you see your creases is usually you're all done with your makeup and you go to look like this, that's when you notice them. So what I like to do is just gently pull down, and that's going to expose the creases. So then I just ever so gently tap into the tear duct and tap into the creases. Now, important when you're using a thick creamy foundation like this, and then by the time you get to where you're putting powder on top of it, once you do that, you are not going to be able to mess with those creases. They are set, and if once you go to try to touch them after you've put powder on, you're just going to smear your powder and end up with like a dark fingerprint right there. So you really don't want to do that. Now is the time that you want to try to smudge it in there, and if you're having trouble, maybe you need to apply more product, but now is the time to do that. Okay, so I did the first round of concealer and it's blended in pretty well. I dab it in place rather than swiping it because the swiping motion is just going to exacerbate fine lines, and it kind of glosses over them. It doesn't actually, hello kitty, it doesn't actually press into the fine lines, and you want your makeup to fill it as best you can. Okay, Bye-bye, kitty. I'm gonna do another layer of concealer, and I'm gonna use Bobbi Brown Tinted Eye Brightener because I feel like it's a little bit lighter weight, and for a heavier look, or not a heavier look, but a full makeup look that you wanna last all night, like say you have an important event and you know that there's gonna be a lot of pictures and maybe it's warm, we're gearing up for summer, you want it to stay all day, you would want to use a heavier concealer like NARS or something like that. But today I'm just working on this post and going to the grocery store. So I don't really need that, but I'm gonna scale it down just a tad and use the Bobbi Brown one that I really like. It's very thin, it's tinted, I like the way it feels. So I'm gonna go in and just do my regular triangle pattern that I do, and that's because we don't want to just swipe it under the eye. That's going to give us kind of like a thicker makeup right there under the eye, almost makes it appear like a bag because it's a different color than the rest of the skin, so you want to blend it out really well, and we do that by using a triangle. And then also want to even out the color of my face by using it on my chin, right underneath the hollows of my cheekbones. And this is also giving the powder something to grab onto, because those are the areas that I'm also going to put it. Right down the middle of my nose and a little on my forehead. For this step, I'm going to use a damp beauty blender. And we're gonna do that because I want to pull a little bit of excess product off. I wanna blend it and really make sure that these two colors blend together really well. When I get in here, I don't want to leave really fine lines. So again, I'm going to just tug my skin and press it. And I'm kind of also pushing upward toward the inside of my eye. And I'm using the excess also to get these areas where I'm gonna put powder. We're gonna get to the actual baking part. So, I have just a tiny little sponge from a sample that I got that I'm gonna use, but you could also use a wedge sponge or any kind of makeup sponge if you wanted to. And one of the things that we're gonna have to do to it though is we're gonna spray it with setting spray. This one is by Urban Decay, and I'm just gonna spray it right on the sponge. There we go. And I'm gonna let it dry out just a little bit because that was a pretty big spray for this little sponge. Now, for the setting powder, I'm gonna use Laura Mercier. And while that's drying, I'm going to apply just a tiny bit to my under eye. Now, Laura Mercier setting powder is amazing. I'm going to tap off a little bit of excess. Normally, you would want to use a loose setting powder for this, but I don't have any. As I said, this is my first time trying this for you guys. So I'm just gently going to dab a little bit in here. Don't forget to tap the excess. And that's just addressing the fine lines and creases before we start applying a lot of it. Okay, now what we're gonna do is use our wet little sponge, and we're gonna get powder on it. Be very generous with the powder. This step is meant to have excess powder. So you're just gonna start tapping. This is why you need the loose powder, because it's not going on as well. That's okay. I'll get enough on there. So the liquid setting spray is what's going to assist in the baking process. That's what's going to help the powder heat up to your skin. And I'm basically just using the guide of my cheekbone as far as where I'm going to put it. I'm also going to put it under the hollow, which is going to help me with my contouring that I will do after we're all through here. Now that my sponge isn't quite so wet, it's going on a little bit better. But if it were loose powder, I wouldn't have that problem. I'm going to put a little bit on my chin. And you're gonna look about like this. This is the goal. It seems a little odd, but this is the goal. So, going to do the other eye and the other side of my face, and then we have to let it sit. So I'm gonna do that, and then I'll be back with you guys. Okay, I'm back, and I gave the setting powder by Laura Mercier about 10 minutes to bake on my face, and I'm gonna show you now how you get it off. And a lot of people would say just use one of these guys and get it off, but I'm gonna use an extra step, and I think that's gonna help with the color, because a lot of times I see people do their makeup on Instagram videos or whatever, and they end up with huge white cheekbones, and we're basically done applying color to our face at this point. So besides the contouring, which we know is not going to affect the lighter part of our face, it's only going to get lighter with highlighter. So what I'm going to do is encourage you to use a small brush, and I like this one by Sephora just because it's about the size that I would want to use, and I don't have one that's exactly the size that I would want to use. But take your brush, get it in your powder, foundation powder, so it's, you know, the color that you need for your skin, and get a little bit on there before you go to wipe it off. So as you're wiping it off, you're applying a little bit of color. And I'm fresh out of my powder, which I didn't discover until this morning. So I'm gonna use just a hint of bronzer by Smashbox, and we'll see how that works out. So I'm gonna definitely not allow for a lot of excess on my brush because it's bronzer. But we'll start, and we're just gonna gently sweep it off the under eye because we don't want to cause any more creasing, because at this point we really can't do much at all about that. And then further down, we're gonna start just blending it, and it's mostly just gonna come off on its own. Okay, now at this point, you may have seen a fine line or a crease or two, but I would encourage you to step away from the mirror, because if you try to go at those right now, like I said, they're just gonna smudge and you're not gonna be happy with the result. Now, furthermore, most people, even when you're with your close friends we keep about 12 inches of distance from, and that's mostly what we consider comfortable. And then I notice that when we get closer to each other, we tend to look away a little bit. Our eyes divert a little bit. You don't often find yourself right here up against somebody looking at their pores or their creases in their eyes. So when you go to an event and you have flash photography and things like that, that's definitely not going to show them. It's always further than 12 inches. And you're looking at yourself much closer in the mirror when you're noticing those fine lines than anyone ever sees you. So back up a little bit. I don't see any in the camera right now, and I have it about 18 inches from my face. So you're gonna be fine when you do this look. So this is it for baking, and then I'm going to apply my contouring and then show you what the final look looks like.